to another video of Coding with Ali. We are continuing with learning C++, and today we are going to code our very first basic C++ program. So the first thing you want to do is you want to head over to Google. You want to Google Replit, and you want to create a brand new C++ program. You can do that, or you can just use any IDE where you can code on C++ with, whatever works best for you. The first thing we're going to do is, so what I like to teach is that there are certain things that you will always need when you create a C++ program. So it's very much like baking a cake. When you bake a cake, you will always need flour, you will always need eggs, and you will always need oil. That is the basics of baking a cake. When it comes to the basics of building a C++ program, very similar, we will also have things that we will also always need. Obviously, it will be coding and it won't be food ingredients, although you can have snacks while you code. Nothing wrong with that. So these things will be, the first one is going to be our header file, #include IOStream. So this includes the header file IOStream, which stands for input output stream, and it basically just means that you can code a program now that can handle input and output. Very easy, very key ingredient here. The next one that is just a preference to me is using namespace std. So the reason that I prefer this one is if you do not use this line of code, ladies and gentlemen, you will end up coding a C++ program where you constantly say std dots and then the function. To me, that's just unnecessary. It irritates me. I get confused, too many dots, whatever. So we are going with using namespace std. Thank you very much. And then the last key ingredient that you will always need is your main function. So my main function is an integer function. So just for best practice, I'm going to say return 0. Now you don't have to say that, your program will still run without it, but I am a gal of needing everything to be best practice, so we're going with it. Okay, so this basic program that we are going to create is going to receive input from the user, and it is going to print that, the input that they gave, it's going to print it back to them as output. So you're going to learn how to handle input, how to store it in a variable, as well as how to print that back to the user on the screen. So the first thing you're going to need to do is declare a variable. So a variable is basically like a little house that you are going to store a value in. And you need to give this little house, what type of house is this? And what is the name of this house? Okay, so mine is going to be integer number. So the type of house that it is an integer. An integer is basically a whole number. For anybody who loves math like me, very easy. Then we have the name of the variable, which is number. So this is an integer variable named number. It's a little house called number, and we can store an integer value in it. So a whole number, 1, 2, 300, 400, whichever one you'd like. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to get the input from the user. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to print the prompt on the screen for the user to enter something. So we're going to say cout, enter a let's say a random number, just to make the user think a bit randomly. And then we're going to say, okay, no, we're going to just put a semicolon there. And then we're going to say cin. And then the arrows are going to point to the right because we want to put the value into the variable. So that's why it's pointing to the name of the variable. And we're going to say number. What this is going to do is it's going to prompt the user to enter a number. And then whatever number they enter will be stored in the variable number. It's going to go live in that little house called number. Okay. So maybe let's just see how that works. If we say run our program, it's going to say enter a number, and I'm going to say 7, enter, shop. No errors. Everything works perfectly. The other thing you can do, depending on your aesthetics and what you prefer, is you can actually put a new line character here. So a new line character basically just means I'm printing a new line. What this will then do is to just, please take a look here. It actually prompts the user and they can enter the value on the same line. if you put this little endl part here, they will have to put their input into the next line. So if we run it, you will see I now need to enter it there. Like it doesn't allow me to enter it on the same line, but still, I say enter and it works perfectly. So it just depends on your preference, what you find aesthetically pleasing, etc. My preference is not having that there. So we're going to delete this. And I can breathe again. I might be a bit OCD sometimes, but you know, it's great. Okay. So that is the first part. We're actually going to add a comment here. So this is get input from the user. If you are unfamiliar with what a comment is, it is basically a piece of code that if another developer is reading your code, it will actually tell them what this block of code does. So if someone else is reading my code and they're like, yo, this is a bunch of gibberish, they just read this little line, get input from the user, and they will know, oh, this is what this block of code does. You will also see that you put 2 backslashes in C++, and if I run it, it doesn't pop up on the screen. So it's kind of invisible, but it's not invisible. Cool. And then the second part is we obviously want to print this input back to the user's output. So we're going to say cout again because we want to put it out to the user. And we're going to say the number you have chosen is. Now, if you want to add a variable, you're going to have to put 2 arrows again, the variable name. So this is the name of the little house that we stored the number in. We store the input in. And I'm going to put an end line character here now because I like doing that. If we then, I should just stop my program. Okay, then if we run it again, it's going to say, let's enter a number. Let's say 100. I'm feeling like 100. The number you have chosen is 100. Voila, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to be a little bit fancy with your first program, you can say the number you have chosen squared is, and then you can just say number, which is the name of the variable, times itself. So in C++, there is not a function or a fancy way of putting something to the power of something. You can only multiply it, and to multiply something in C++, you use this little star. So if something is squared, it is the value times itself. So I'm going to say the value that the user entered, the number, times the number. So remember, we stored the value that the user chose into this house called number, and now I'm multiplying number by number. Okay. Then we can say run, and now let's see the fanciness. So we're somewhere going to say 2. The number you have chosen squared is 4. And of course, just for best coding practice, I want everything to be in a straight line, and I'm going to add one more comment. We're going to say display the output. Perfect. And that is your first program. Very well done to you. If you would like to learn more and become a pro in C++, please check out my channel. I will post new learnings every single Wednesday. Thank you so much.